or woman lying. So I learned this in the business world, right? That behavior is more important than intent, right? But like, in order to give you more context, like, this applies everywhere in human social life and whatnot, wherever behavior exists, right? So think of like men and women dating, right? So take a woman, you watch these videos online, and women are like, you ask a woman like, what type of men do you date? And like, I look for 6 foot, 6 figures, all this stuff, right? Now that is intent, okay? Behavior is, if you were to observe the past 10 partners she had, how many of them, like what they were like, how many of them fit this criteria that they're talking about. And oftentimes, like 9 out of the 10 men she dates do not fit the criteria that she's mentioning when you ask her what type of men do you date. And because behavior is often very different than intent, and oftentimes the intent is obfuscating the behavior. It's compensating for it, meaning she had these men, 9 out of 10 men that didn't fit this criteria. She met this one guy who was so like, he was 6 foot and he's 6 figures, and she's like, I want to hone in on that. So you ask her like, what type of men do you look for? And she's like, oh, like these characteristics, right? But the truth is that if you were to bring men like those 9 other men that she had dated, she would still get with them very simply because she still has the characteristic of getting with those people. That behavior exists, right? And so the intent doesn't matter as much. And the intent is often, like I said, compensating for it. So if all of her 10 partners were, these 6 foot, 6 figure people, then when you were to ask her what type of men do you date, she'd actually not even mention those things. Instead, she would mention things like, oh, I look for like kind men. They give me attention. And so if you observe then her past 10 partners, 9 of them are toxic, and one of them is like very nice and stuff, and she's optimizing for that. So that's another thing, right? But this is so are women lying? No. This is a subconscious thing. This is not a conscious thing that women or men are lying. This applies to men as well, right? So they're not lying at all. This is just how intent and behavior exist, right? And some people, like in this case, will like define intent as preferences. These are women's preferences, but it classifies as intent when you ask them a question and they mention this stuff to you. It passes off as intent. So in business, it's the same thing. You're talking to clients, you're talking to users, you're talking to customers. They will say one thing, which is their intent. But if you were to observe their behavior and how they use your product, among other things, it's very different, right? So again, this is not something conscious. They're not lying or anything like that. It just is a thing of the world, which is intent often does not, it's not congruent with behavior. And so behavior is often the most important thing. So next time a girl, tells you that she only dates 6 foot people and you're not 6 foot, chances are you can still get with her, because chances are that all of, her behavior does not match what she's actually saying.